Hey everybody, welcome back to Sierra Rose Typology. I have my wonderful, amazing guest today, Micaiah. Welcome back. If you got to catch our video from yesterday, we just talked about being triple posies and SOSX for 2 hours.
Yes, that was a wild ride in itself.
Yeah, it
But
was,
now,
yeah, now we're getting really serious.
exactly.
Yeah, so I'm actually really glad that you joined me on this call because I thought you had some really excellent points because I was initially thinking, and this was just kind of my general impression that he might be like we both clearly think he's a six, like a six wing five, but I was thinking he might be like a 6'9'4", like a sad sack because
Right.
in a lot of these pictures he has oh gosh. Well, maybe I can make it bigger. He's got like this really sullen, like kind of like petulant look on his face and
Right.
those micro expressions and then just from his action, like you can see like the sullen look. Um,
Yeah. And like he's like in that photo with him in like the little orange jumpsuit, right next to that one, I think it looked like he was like 5 seconds from crying, which I think is like 6'9" 6'9" 4" area.
mhm.
And then like even looking at his face right here, there is like a fourish withdrawnness somewhere.
Okay.
Um, looking at it, but I think it's like really, really six wing five heavy in that it's like six wing five, like in contrast, like six wing seven, where there's almost like a nervousness or like a,
KG.
dare I say, cagey, bouncy
Mhm.
energy.
Yeah.
It's like the nerves are now like super duper intense, and he's like full blown, no, this is a problem. And it's like doom powering through your soul,
Mhm.
which I think his face is just so six wing five coded
Yeah.
that might explain why it seems even a little forced because there's like a natural seriousness in the face. But then again,
Mhm.
there could be some poor influence that we'll
Yeah.
probably catch in the interview.
Hey, my kid, could you move your phone or whatever a little closer to you? You're just still coming through a little quiet on my
Oh
end.
my gosh, I'm super duper quiet. Let me see. Da, da, da. Is it a little better,
Um,
louder, or I'm
yeah,
gonna have to do the?
I think it's a little bit better, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so like I was even wondering initially before I started looking at him if he might be like another flatliner like Ted Kaczynski because
right,
there was a lot of similarities between them and he was also like a loner and kind of like an ideologue or whatever you call him. And also I know
absolutely,
he had a bit of that like 5'9" stem like stick bug body, like he was really tall and really thin.
right,
But I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean he's like the 5'9" stem, especially the first thing that jumped out at me when I started looking into this guy was that he was a lot more like attachy. He had a lot more attachment themes throughout his life. Like he
yeah,
was absolutely, and you can see like that sad forlorn thing here. Like,
there we go.
yeah, like it's very sad, but he wanted to fit in, and I think he kept trying. But he was very disenfranchised. He probably had PTSD from fighting. He was in, pretty heavy combat in the Gulf War, and
Absolutely,
he became radicalized and desensitized, and I think probably mobilized by friends that he made. I don't think any of this was necessarily like self-initiated in that Hexad type of way.
right. Yeah, that adds up for him in general. And like we'll probably discuss it more into when we look at the interview if we get to that. Because like even looking at the interview, there's just such a very, very it's like he uses himself as kind of like a vessel for the points he's making or whatever. Now, like he could be like trying to defend himself and going, well, it's not my thing, but he's not doubling down on anything. It's like almost like this lack of agency in his own head center of this is what I think and we're going to run with it. It's like, well, they did this. The government can do it in this city, so why can't I do it? And like,
Yeah. hmm Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And then while like Kaczynski, he wrote his own like long ass manifesto. So like that to me is another stark contrast between the two of them. Kaczynski was 100% a lone wolf. He was acting alone the entire time. This guy was not. And I don't, to my knowledge, I don't think he ever penned anything original. He was going to events and gun shows and handing out pamphlets of information from like the Turner Diaries, which was a book. He was really into like I saw a lot of elements of nine escapism because he loved he escaped into fantasy a lot as a kid because I think his childhood was pretty lonely and sad and he was obsessed with like Star Wars and I think that helped to shape his like the way he framed the world is like good versus evil, like one big cosmic battle. And
right,
he also loved films like Red Dawn. So all these ideas being planted in his head very early shaped him along with his like traumatic experiences in combat. And then so at when he was a soldier too, he was pretty highly decorated. I believe he got three medals. But then
yeah,
when he tried to join like an elite special forces group, he washed out within a couple of days. And maybe because he had that like trauma that he hadn't dealt
right,
with from his combat experience. But I think he felt like a failure. And almost like after that point, he needed to align himself with another cause. So he was looking, and I think this speaks to possible triple attachment. He was
right,
like kind of bouncing around between different groups. Like he went to some KKK meetings. He was like white supremacist light. And like he was bouncing around. He at one point was affiliated with the NRA, and then like other anti-government groups, and kind of found his niche working the gun show circuit, traveling around the country to like connect with other like-minded people.
right. Interesting, interesting. Because I think we discussed this earlier where we were considering self-social in the beginning, but now that you're like describing it, there's like almost like the social self-pres feel that might be added to like his sixth super ego already of like these are the good people, these are the bad people, and instead of like there being like a sixth insecurity of that like self-pres space of like because when I was doing the research, I remember there's like a level of worry about losing the Second Amendment. But like when you framed it in that perspective, it kind of makes it seem less like a no genuine, I don't want to lose my own rights kind of thing. And therefore I aligned with them because my rights were important. But
Mhm,
instead, like the social story or like the social self-pres history of oh my gosh, the words just left me, but like something social self-presy of like good people, bad people, these are the elite in this self-pres wall of like I would say belief systems in the headspace or like whatever. It's
mhm,
like kind of the way we all connect to each other. And
yeah,
therefore they're taking away that like potential for like the Second Amendment to be like something. And
mhm.
now I'm going to lose my connection to some extent. Now I have to go find some other people and do crazy wild shit that makes no sense in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Yeah, so like another piece with the gun thing, he was a huge gun enthusiast and Second Amendment enthusiast, but I think part of that was also like related to attachment because his mom, I think his mom had substance abuse problems and abandoned him when he was very young. And he
Right,
became incredibly close to his grandfather, who was very much like that hardcore patriot, a gun nut, and I think he got that, that core like attachment figure from his grandpa. And then
Right,
I think he got a lot of his identity out of being like a soldier, and he had very much the mentality of a soldier. He wanted to serve his country. He was patriotic. But then
right,
when he went over there to the Persian Gulf, I think his eyes started to open. He became disillusioned because he went over there with very black and white thinking, like these people are the enemy.
hmm,
I'm doing what's right. And then he realized these are just people too. And he was horrified by his own actions, in that kind of super ego influenced way. And he described at one point like shearing someone's head off with machine gun fire. And so like he became disillusioned with the government, kind of in that counterphobic sixth way of like, I was a
right,
patriot, I was willing to serve and die for my country, but then now I'm realizing that my country is really corrupt and I'm also desensitized to violence. And then he also got further radicalized because of what was happening in the early to mid 90s with like Ruby Ridge and
right,
the absolute disaster in Waco, Texas, with that cult there, that there was this massive government overreach, and it had to do with people's rights to, amass weapons, basically. And a lot of innocent people died, and he felt like it was an attack on his rights as a citizen, and he felt like he had a duty as a soldier to fight back. And the government became like enemy number one. So
right.
he absolutely thought that he was doing the right thing.
Exactly. And then like I think because of that like attachment and super ego from six, where they were doing he had like that anti-attachment attachment from like the government of like I can no longer fix this. I now have to like leave it. I'm gonna go join another group that's like gonna do exactly as I say instead of like say either like a one, probably would just be like, no, you're wrong, and then just do the one laser point cutting,
Hmm.
or like two where they just honestly I don't know what a two would do if it was like to murder someone, but I know there's like that six is like okay, system doesn't work, leave system, find another system and attack the system I just left.
Hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely like textbook counterphobic. And I think he was so caught up in his own like ideology that like look at him here when they brought him out. Um, to face the public to be transported to prison or whatever,
Right,
he was like hurt and wounded by the public response because he legitimately thought that his actions were going to incite the people to rise up against the government.
right. And maybe like that attachment kind of like pseudo reciprocation of I'm doing this for you guys, I'm doing this as one of you all. Why aren't you
Hmm.
now coming up and backing me up and going,
Yeah.
yeah, we can toss the government who's enemy number one? And they're all just like, you just killed a bunch of random people you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a fail.
Absolutely.
I'll say that, but like, you know, speaking to like the sixth commitment, and loyalty to their cause, to the very end, I know we were both talking about how he faced the death sentence with a degree of stoic dignity. So
Yeah,
he initially appealed it, but then dropped the appeal and refused to even attempt any more appeals because he wanted to die for the cause. He thought,
right,
well, if my initial actions blowing up that federal building didn't, energize the people to action, maybe my death will. And he actually wanted to televise live his execution on TV because he thought, well, maybe finally these people will wake up.
right. The six whistleblowing right then and there, kind of using himself as like a canvas for his message, which I think also points to social self-res in like the social messaging of like, now that I have to do this sexual dying or like this thing, now everyone will see that this social self-pres message of the government's an absolute shithole.
Yeah.
I'm not, I would have to, I want to see what like the public thought if this death was ever publicized. Not that I would ever watch it, but like
Hmm.
I have to see what everyone else's response was because I'm just looking at him going, no, we all think you're crazy. And I think you're just like televising your death just further proves that you are indeed insane. It's
Yeah.
a little metal, but like
Hmm.
you're insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that there were so many victims from his attack that they actually had to hold a lottery to get seats to watch his execution. So a lot of people,
That
a lot of people
crazy.
were, yeah, a lot of people were impacted by this and really hurt by it. But so like the night before he died, he requested a copy of the Constitution. And so it was almost like he was drawing a sense of like reinforcing his sense of duty, like this is what I believe in. The Constitution was his Bible and the Turner Diaries, but he was staying true to his cause in his mind until the very end. And then when they offered him sedatives before he was going to, go and be executed, he refused. And he died with a degree of, stoic dignity, and he very much saw himself as a martyr for his cause.
Right.
So, well, if you want, we can start the internet video. And I'm sorry, everyone. Like this is an old video, and the quality is pretty poor on this one. But we'll still be able to work with it.
Yeah,
Speaks publicly
absolutely.
about the bombing, about his anger toward the U.S. government, and about his appeal. While he does not admit his guilt, he also doesn't proclaim his innocence. We met him at the maximum security U.S. penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, where he now sits on death row awaiting a date for his execution. Because of his appeal, one of the conditions his lawyer laid down was that we not ask him directly, "Are you the Oklahoma City bomber?" Maybe one of the benefits of me talking to you today is that you'll see that maybe not everything is true that you've heard about me. For
Do you have any first impressions?
Um, like, okay, I got some first impressions. Like, firstly, like that opening line where he's like, the interviewer was like, he didn't say he was guilty, but he didn't say he was innocent. I feel like that's just like triple attachment trying to do like the edgy or seem like cool. I don't know if that was like just the interviewer being trying to like make him look relatively polished or really awesome and edgy to some extent. But like that statement just screams Bermuda of like, I'm not giving you my location. I
Mm.
know that it's like they want you to know the truth, but in like this weird, vague, unclear way. So you end up just staring at them going, cool. So you did kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
go ahead.
and then like that, I think even just speak more towards his sixth core, um, like that he was like hoping in that interview that like the truth will come out and that what's real, the negativity, the all the gunk and gross stuff that he's uncovered in the system through whatever books he's reading and whatever gets brought into light. Yeah. And then like to add even more onto that, there's like just not just energetically, but there isn't that six wing seven ping ponging and like hissy from the seven wing. It's that five wing. I'm gonna like narrow down. Here's my all the research, all the information, and let me just plow right through you and unravel the truth with like six.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess like what I noticed from like his overall like energetic quality was that he doesn't seem at all like a deranged psychopath or
Right.
he doesn't have like the cult leader vibes. He's very soft spoken. He's very like six everyman. And I watched like a follow-up video with this guy, the interviewer, and he said that throughout the course of interviewing McVeigh, he found himself forgetting like that he wasn't just talking to a normal person.
Right.
Um, but I did want to, sorry, kind of like ping-ponging a little bit here. I did
No,
want to bring it back to if we're talking about for his heart fix, 3 versus 4, he didn't really seem to have maybe what you would see as like the competency or drive from 3. Though I was
right.
thinking his heart fix was probably last. So one thing that I grabbed from Wikipedia was that while he was still in high school, he became interested in computers and hacked into government computer systems on his Commodore 64 under the handle The Wanderer. And then so he was a smart guy. I think they had his IQ at like 126, which is definitely it's not like genius level, but it's still pretty bright.
Right.
And then in his school, he was voted as the most promising computer programmer. Um, but
Interesting.
But then after he graduated, even though he was pretty bright and gifted and talented with computers, he didn't really do anything with his life until he joined the army at age 20. He just kind of
Right.
like this, I'm just kind of lost in aimless quality until he started to kind of mold his identity into this soldier. And then eventually, like, I'm a soldier for the Constitution, a soldier for gun rights, whatever.
Right.
But I mean, I guess you could also argue that he showed a lot of competency because when he did build that bomb, like it caused a massive amount of damage. And they were like the government was initially thinking that it had to be an act of like terrorism from a foreign nation because of how like sophisticated it all was. Like it
Right.
caused a tremendous amount of damage. So I guess you could argue he showed competency.
Are
But
you, yeah. I think right now I'm still sitting with like 3 and 4 right now, just
sure.
because like, and I definitely agree it's definitely last because honestly, even his like own, I think even in like when I got to like halfway through the interview where he was like, I don't want everyone to like see me because now at first in like the jumpsuit because it dissuades them into thinking I'm this criminal guy. It's like the image lastness is so the image curation is like lazy and also so heavily filtered through the mental center of it
Okay.
pushes the narrative instead of just the image, whatever, this is what I'm supposed to look like. Now value it.
Mm-hmm.
But like the reason I'm still thinking 3, because like with the competency, there is still some level of I have to shape myself to fit into like the soldier archetype. And like that 4 playing in the background with like 6, 9 would probably just like the 6 and 9 would melt and mold in like the heart and the head and gut center. But that 4 fix would just be like, but I'm broken and I'm only taking it in.
Yeah.
And like, I hate this. You're disgusting. You're miserable. And like, and I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. And I'm trying to make sure this isn't my bias of like, having every single person that joins the military be 3 fix or like the military being so anti 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes
Granted,
sense. It does.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like because I think there might be some 4-ness in the interview that I miss, and we'll probably try to catch it. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, I think 3 wing 4 because there is no like 3 wing 2. Energetically, it doesn't scream 3 wing 2 playing in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I guess you could also make the point that like the 4, what I am getting from 4, like kind of like the woundedness, like the petulance,
Right,
it's kind of more of a flavor that doesn't have like the punchiness you'd expect from a 4 fix.
right.
So, I mean, we can keep going.
I think it'd be fair just to make sure it's not 4 because I think a lot of what we're seeing is so much 6 wing 5 Debbie Downer.
Mm-hmm. And also like every man. Like I'm just a normal
Exactly.
guy doing the right thing. Yeah.
Right.
For example, it's not true.
No, am I pure evil? Am I the face of terror sitting here in front of you? Or am I able to talk to you man to man?
Most people in this country think you are the face of evil, don't they?
They do. But sitting down here now,
So like I just want to stop like even his facial expression here reminds me a little bit of Eminem, who is I
Right,
believe a 6'5". Like it's kind of like he's staring him down, he's guarded, he's cagey, but at the same time he's like, I'm a normal guy, like I'm someone you can relate to. I'm not a monster.
right. Yeah, and I think does like Eminem have like a four fix? I think he does. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
But I
don't
think
know. I just know if they got Eminem as a 6'5".
yeah. But like yeah, he definitely has like that similarity, the similar 6'5" face of like intense stare down the barrel hole to where you're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to where it almost feels like Hexat gut fix or feels very gutty because there's no jumping around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think this is like 6'5" intensity because it's all just head, and there's no solidity coming from the gut space that's like driving it forward.
Okay. Okay.
and let me make clear, I'm not sitting here trying to influence you, and I'm not putting on a game face. Uh, I'm not conning anybody. I'm just being me.
I'm honest. I'm a 6.
I'm not trying to like convert you or anything. That's just like 6'9" stem
Yeah, six
going like
nine.
you can't if I change your mind, it's not my fault. It's
Mm-hmm.
not me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. It was everything else in the universe. It wasn't me who just said everything and then made you feel bad about it.
And maybe people will listen as opposed to not listening at a trial.
But what people heard at his trial was a mountain of incriminating evidence detailing how Timothy McVeigh spent 9 months meticulously planning the attack, amassing fuses, fuel oil, ammonium nitrate, and other materials for his homemade bomb. How he rented a Ryder truck under an assumed name, loaded it with 4,800 pounds of explosives, and how he then drove the truck to the federal building, lit a fuse, and walked away, leaving the 9-story structure in ruins. Among the dead were 19 children, most of them playing at a daycare center inside, 8 federal law enforcement agents, 35 employees of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 16 employees of the Social Security Administration, and more than 80 other people who just happened to be in the building that Wednesday morning. Everyone in America saw the pictures, television, heard the news on the radio. What was your reaction when you saw those pictures?
I think, like everyone else, I thought it was a tragic event.
Huh.
Go ahead.
I'm like, yeah, I think like that. I don't know what that was specifically, like typologically, but like that delay in response felt like there's like some level of three image instead of like four, just like because even though four is a withdrawn type, a four can kind of locate what image they want, and they'll just go, bleh, it was horrible. I think they were just trying to find like some three validation or finding that three, this is the right response to have in this
Okay.
particular answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
see.
then
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and then on top of that, I think just like I don't know what his wing on the nine is. I think he mentioned 9-wing-1, which
Hmm.
might make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at him, he does seem like really, really uncomfortable and not like blocky, in contrast to like one serial killer guy that I think is definitely like 9-wing-8 and 7. I can't remember who the guy is to save my life. I
Hmm.
just remember I watched it in like school once, and that serial killer was definitely like a 9-wing-8. or
Yeah.
had like 9 wing 8 and 7 in him, where this guy's like full blown that 9 like withdrawn, and then the 1 just kind of elevating it to where it
Yeah.
feels super duper uptight and rigid
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and almost, yeah.
yeah, I see what you're saying about him being very calculated in the heart center with his response, but I also notice he's like distancing himself from this psychologically. Like I thought it was really tragic too. So like if he were 8 fixed, I think there would be much more of a degree of ownership over this. Like, yeah, I did it. Like come
And
at me. Like I did it. But for like the one wing on the 9. I would assume because he was also like kind of like OCD in his life. He was obsessed with cleanliness and order. So I could
right,
see him having that extra dose of like rigidity from the 1 flavor, though I don't think he was like 1 fixed. I think he was 9. Like he's very soft.
right.
And
But
his
even, yeah, because like even if he had a 1 fix per se, I think not just like that 6 wing 5 intensity would be a lot more cutting and a lot more laser pointery.
oh
I
yeah.
think there would even be like he's not hissy at all and doesn't seem to be like screaming and like, no, you got it wrong. So let me 1 fix this for you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not and that's the thing, he's not really giving a location.
Right.
He's very cagey from the 6 wing 5. Like he literally even looks like Eminem here, like the eyes and everything,
Exactly.
like that cagey quality, but also like a lot of softness and just diffusing his energy. Because I do think he's 9 wing 1 second.
Hmm.
And that's all I really want to say.
And the children?
I thought it was terrible that there were children in the building.
A jury convicted you of killing 168 people. The American public, by and large, generally believes that you are the Oklahoma City bomber. Is there anything that you can say, or is there anything you want to say about what happened there? Is there anything you would say to the families, for example?
There are things that I want to say, uh, but the timing's not right.
What do you mean?
At the time, right now, uh, where I'm at in my appeals, where I'm at in my life, um, there are some issues that I just don't feel that it's the right time to discuss in depth.
McVeigh was stopped.
Okay, so it's kind of speaking to the quality again with the instincts. I know initially we were both thinking SpSo, and I think like this right here is possibly speaking to SpSo because he has this opportunity, has this platform, but he doesn't think the time is right. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
there's this, and that there's also like energetically this feeling of like he's very contained, he's very
Hmm.
withdrawn, and that's why I was initially thinking he had to be double withdrawn from like 9 and 4. But
Right.
again, I don't see the justification for the double reactivity from like, 6 and 4. Like
Or
he does seem like
right.
Bermuda and also like a very like contained, walled off one.
Right. And to like add maybe to self-care social, I think what also spoke to self-care social was like I think we mentioned this earlier, where there was like some hoarding tendencies he had, and that just brings self-care dominant to me. But now that I'm like sitting with it, I think that's just honestly the 6 going gather, 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 gather out of paranoia. And I could see I could see the argument for self-care social with like it's not the right time, but I also could see it also being like a social dominant kind of reading where he is contextually in like the social storyline of the situation, where it's like, I can't say it now. Well, maybe self-social probably, I don't know. We'll have to keep watching because I
Yeah.
think it could also point either one.
Yeah, I do have a couple more thoughts on that though, because while I do think Kaczynski was social self-pres and he penned the manifesto in his like very 5-wing 6 way, but Kaczynski, even though he was, double withdrawn, extremely withdrawn, he was actively reaching out to reporters to trying to get his message out until the very end. And to my knowledge, I don't think that he ever really did release a statement. Like when they asked him if he had any last words to say before he was executed, he didn't say anything. So,
Okay.
so I think that could possibly point to SpSo, and just a whole lot of that super ego, duty boundedness from being a 6-wing 5.
Okay. That might be like why we're feeling that weird social self-pres thing because of that 6 and 5 duty then. Because yeah,
Hmm.
if he doesn't, because I feel like you got a point. The social self-pres would opportunity for a narrative, even if there wasn't timing, like social timing in this moment, they would have eventually tried to add to the narrative eventually. Well, he was just like, I can't.
I've got nothing.
I can't because I can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Just 75 minutes after the explosion for driving a car without license plates and arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. The FBI quickly linked him to the Ryder truck used in the bomb. And on April 1st, 1995, McVeigh was formally charged, and America got its first look at the man the government believed was the Oklahoma City bomber. What was that like for you that day? People were shouting at you. I remember somebody had shouted out "baby killer."
You go into a mode where you try to block external stimuli out. Uh, you're gearing up for anything to happen mentally, but at the same time, you're putting on your poker face because you're aware of how the media nitpicks at every little emotion that comes across on a face. You don't want to give them anything to feed off.
How did Timothy McVeigh, a 31-year-old man with no previous criminal record, end up convicted of the worst act of domestic terrorism in American history?
Can we pause there? Because I think that also might possibly like how he like phrased that thing also probably points to like self-pres social in that like sure there was the 6 wing 5. The media is gonna twist what I say if I read my face and all that jazz. But there was like almost this focus on self-regulating or figuring out how to play the self-pres game
Hmm.
so that the 6 wing 5 message wasn't getting altered or
Yeah.
narrative doesn't get altered instead of like social self-pres where there probably would have been like something else. But it was just like you have to prepare your mind, your thing to deal with the self-pres attack because the self-pres thing is the only thing that really matter. This self-pres thing or something.
Yeah. Just being really contained,
Exactly.
which I think is like self-pres over social.
Exactly.
Up into New York, a small town near Buffalo. His mother, Mildred, left the family when he was just a boy, and he was raised mostly by his father, Bill, a factory worker. Overall, McVeigh says he was a happy kid. In your high school yearbook, under future plans, you wrote, and I'm quoting here, take it as it comes, buy a Lamborghini, California girls. Right.
Well, I'm dreaming. I'm putting down my dreams, you know.
So I think there you could see some of that positivity influence from the 9. Like
Right.
his quote and his goals were like super like unlocated, but like kind of like Delulu positive in that 9 fixed way.
Or like this, even dare I say it, like all of the guys at school like this. So this is now my dream.
California girls. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like it?
Katy Perry reference before Katy Perry was a thing.
Right, right.
And then just like the little smile he has right there is just so 6 and 5, like, oh, I'm so adorable. I'm so
Yeah. It's a little bit self-conscious.
Right.
Yeah, in that six kind of way, like sevens can be a little bit obnoxious. But
Yeah,
he's definitely not.
If you
absolutely.
grow a genie in a bottle, that's
You're gonna say something?
Oh no, no, you're
Okay.
no.
what I wish for, right? So
After graduating high school, he worked briefly as a security guard. Unable to find steady employment, McVeigh joined the Army in 1988. 3 years later, he was promoted to sergeant and sent to fight in the Persian Gulf War, where he was awarded several medals for heroism. In the Gulf, you saw combat?
I did.
You fired a weapon at the Iraqis
Yes.
and killed soldiers.
Yes.
Was it a hurdle for you, or was it something that you just, well, this is the way it is?
Well, I've broken that question down over the years and analyzed it every way,
Six.
trying to come to peace with it myself. In some ways, I can see the right and wrong of it. The right, I thought, well, it was self-defense. The reason I fired is because I saw a muzzle flash and I escaped it.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of six and nine, like ping pong
Yeah,
and being able to see both sides and taking a long time to like get to the was this morally correct thing.
right. And that like humanizing aspect that six just naturally does. And
Mm.
I kind of snickered a little bit because like the interviewer's face was just so priceless. It's like he just I think he had like that six one like there's probably like something sexy about the interview that's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you still thinking about this?
Yeah, yeah.
Then I thought, well, at the same time, I'm in this person's country. What right did I have to come over to his country and kill him? How did he ever transgress against me?
That experience, according to Timothy McVeigh, was the beginning of his transformation from loyal soldier to alienated critic of his government.
I went over there hyped up, just like everyone else. Not only is Saddam evil, all Iraqis are evil. What I experienced, though, was an entirely different ballgame. And being face to face, close with these people in personal contact, you realize they're just people like you. It's hard for some people to come to grips with you as the same person who was commended by the Army, who received the Bronze Star, who received the Combat Medal, as being the same person who was convicted in the Oklahoma City bombing. They can't put the two together. You understand that? I do understand. They perceive, and many people have thrown this at me. They say, well, Tim, if we think you're guilty, imagine the paradox. In the Gulf War, you were given medals for killing people. So I've faced that issue quite a few times with people that bring it up to me. Okay.
So I think that there, what I was getting a little bit was just the cold competency of from his three fix and heart. Like I was
Right,
just doing what I was trained to do. So like
right,
there's the duty, there's like he's the ideal soldier, he's gonna follow the orders, he's gonna get the shit done because of his 6-3 stem. And there's also a
right.
coldness.
hmm Yeah, and then like even that like no, I lost it. Nope, I got it. Like that like that three competency of like this is the right image I'm portraying for you. And then the six kind of either it's like that line to six from the three six or like that six line to or the line to three from six. Kind of going, but this image is no longer like working out because like the six or like this honestly that three getting filtered through the six of this image of this perfect soldier we get value and rewarded for this act of killing and
Mhm.
then but the logical framework doesn't add up when I do it on our turf when I see something wrong.
Yeah. hmm
And that's kind of like that six kind of doing the, dare I say, the nitpickiness of from six in that like logical, deep, logical framing and all that jazz, and that like six wing five with the tweezers going, no, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
How do you explain it?
At that point, usually I just leave it at that, and say that it is an interesting paradox.
And see again, like he's not going to give a location. Like he's like, yeah, I
Right.
see what you're saying, but I don't really have anything to say about that, which I think speaks against maybe SOSP or necessarily like a one fix. Like he when push comes to shove, like it is here, like he can't really give this guy a location.
Or like, and honestly, like anti-hexad, and especially like the head or the gut center is what we're seeing here, because it's like, this is the truth, but it's not what I'm saying.
Hmm.
It's what the truth says. I'm just moving my mouth,
Yeah.
but it's
Like,
not mine.
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting paradox, but I don't really have anything to say about it.
Right. Like in contrast to
Okay.
seven, they'd be like, yeah, this is my, yeah, I ran with it. Or like even like eight or one would probably like own it. And five definitely would.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You almost get this sense that like he is coming from this place where he completely views himself as a product of his environment. Like he's not
yes,
taking responsibility. He's distancing it from himself. He was like, I'm just a soldier who did what I thought I had to do.
right. This is what you guys asked of me, and I did it.
Yeah.
So I don't see why I should go to jail.
Hmm.
After serving in the Gulf War, McVeigh returned to his post at Fort Riley in Kansas. He tried out for the Army's elite Green Beret unit, hoping to make a career in the military. But McVeigh performed poorly on the rigorous physical test, and 8 months later he chose not to reenlist and was honorably discharged from the Army. Was that disappointing for you to not make it?
It was. Um, but at the same time, I was losing motivation. This was during a period when I was coming to grips with my role in the Gulf War.
So is it fair to say that you were disillusioned when you came back? I mean, is that why you left the Army?
It's part of it. I'm sure something didn't feel right in me, but I couldn't quantify it. I couldn't say what it was.
Whatever it was,
Again, it's kind of points against Hexad because he's like, something was wrong, but I didn't know what.
Right. Or at least there was something was wrong. And I think, I'm not sure if this is Hexad, but like, even, I feel like if a Hexad knew something was wrong, they'd just be like, drop it, run.
Hmm.
Well, I think he was like, no, I have to figure out why it's wrong and kind of like see what's wrong and before I strip everything away, because there might be something I can still hook on to or have that like conduit or something.
Yeah.
Well, like Hexad's just gonna go, I don't like that. I'm not touching it.
Hmm. Yeah.
as Timothy McVeigh was becoming resentful and increasingly disillusioned with his government. He returned to upstate New York and wrote a letter to his local newspaper saying, in part, that democracy was on the verge of failure and that, quote, America is in serious decline. You ended that letter with the words, do we have to shed blood to reform the current system? I hope it doesn't come to that, but it might. Sounds like you're pretty angry when you came back.
I believe I had anger welling in me, yes.
McVeigh says that anger at the government intensified in
9-6 not
1992
admitting
in Congress.
anger.
Yeah, I believe it might have been there.
The federal law enforcement authorities during a standoff with white supremacist Randy Weaver at his home in Ruby Ridge, Idaho. FBI sharpshooters killed Weaver's wife and young son. One of the agents involved in the shooting was charged with manslaughter, but the FBI insisted it was an accident and a federal judge dismissed the charges. Tell me what it is about that shootout that Ruby Ridge concerned you.
I could say the use of what is no more or less snipers in a domestic non-wartime situation. Federal agents taking on the role of judge, jury, and executioner. And then to further add insult to injury, you have these people, these federal agents, not held accountable. They become immune from the law.
McVeigh says his hostility toward the U.S. government solidified 8 months later during another standoff, this one at Waco, Texas. There, more than 70 members of the Branch Davidian sect, including 24 children, died in a fire after a bloody clash with federal agents. At one point during the 51-day siege, McVeigh traveled to Waco to witness events firsthand, and he happened to be videotaped there by a local news crew. What impact did it have on you actually being there and looking at it?
Shaken, disillusioned, angered that could happen in this country where the core beliefs are freedom and liberty. And what did you do to these people? You deprived them of life, liberty, and property. You didn't guarantee those rights. You deprived them of them.
What also disturbs McVeigh about Waco was the government's use of tear gas against the men, women, and children inside the Branch Davidian compound.
The thing that hits me the hardest about that is the CS gas. Just knowing what it does and knowing as some adults can barely breathe because of it. When I saw it introduced into a building full of kids like that, the emotions it brings up make me speechless.
Okay, and like right there, that is some obvious hypocrisy because he did bomb a building and he killed a bunch of kids. So
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I did want to quick throw in an interesting bit that I pulled from Wikipedia that he moved. So, and again, I don't think he would have been radicalized on his own, but he was associated with this guy. I think it was Terry Nichols, and he went and lived with him on his farm. And while he was there, he reportedly complained that the army had implanted a microchip into his butt so that the government could keep track of him. So even though like, and I think this probably speaks to like him being a Bermuda because he doesn't really come across as crazy, but like clearly he had some beliefs that were like, in the category of like paranoid delusions.
Exactly. He just like picked it up through osmosis in the area and it was like, I guess it's true because I don't like them. And I think that also is like that sixth reactivity of like the negative reaction from that thing. And then that attachment of this is that like the outer source saying you have that negative reaction because of this thing. And they're like, oh yeah, because I relate to that and have that negative react response to that. It has to be true because it's horrible. I
Mm-hmm.
hate the government. So they obviously planted a chip up his butthole so that they can keep
In his butt cheek, but yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I thought I'd read another little bit. So in kind of like this super ego reactive little kick, he wrote a long letter like breaking up with his childhood friend who wasn't radical. And this is a quote from him. Those who betray or subvert the Constitution are guilty of sedition and or treason, are domestic enemies, and should and will be punished accordingly. So, and then he goes on to say, I have sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will. So I think you can see like obviously like shit tons of super ego from six, but
Right.
also like some push from the assertiveness of three. Like I'm going to take action. If no one else is gonna do this shit, I will. Because
Mhm.
of his super ego, his intense super ego devotion to the Constitution and his patriotism. And he went on to say, I know in my heart that I am right in my struggle. I have come to peace with myself, my God, and my cause. Blood will flow in the streets. Good versus evil. Free men versus socialist wannabe slaves. Pray it is not your blood, my friend. Oh, so like tons and tons of super ego, but he also went and visited Area 51 too, because I'm assuming he thought like the government was like hiding secrets there. So I thought that was interesting. Um,
So he got to go to Area 51 before it was cool. This dude is like a pop culture icon before.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of like if he had only, I guess, done better in his like the training for that elite. I think it was the Green Berets, and if he had only been able to continue to be a heroic soldier, probably none of this would have happened, but
Or at least I don't think he would have been like gone as cuckoo. I
yeah.
think there still would have been some level of like not necessarily radicalism, but still he would have swung towards that like really strong loyal to the Constitution. But I don't think he would have gone so far to where he was like, I have to take it in my own hand and say I was just doing my job. He would have
Hmm.
been like, okay, maybe this was enough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
A lot of people who were upset by that would say, yeah, what happened there is wrong, but those are isolated incidents. That was just Ruby Ridge and Waco. What would you say to that?
I would say I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I think for people that follow the news and follow events, there are patterns of abuse evident.
And according to Timothy McVeigh, it is up to the citizens of the United States to keep their government in check. What do you think is the appropriate way for a citizen of this country to express his or her displeasure with the government?
There are many options.
Is violence an acceptable option?
If government is the teacher, violence would be an acceptable option.
What do you mean?
Well, what did we do to Sudan? What did we do to Afghanistan? Belgrade? What are we doing with the death penalty? It appears they use violence as an option all the time.
So if the government uses this, it's okay for us as citizens to use it.
I'll let my explanation stand for itself.
When
Like
we
he's allergic to just saying yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think. He's like, well, the government does it, so
Hmm.
we should too. I mean, they kill people all the time. Instead of like taking like a gut boundary or a head, and I think this is like a gut thing, like a stance in the gut thing. It's like, yeah, this is what I think. It's displacing it on the other person and then saying, in order to like balance it out, I'm allowed to do it.
Hmm.
Because I think at least like a Hexad type would not just own it, but not really care that the government is doing it or is not doing it, and that that action is not contingent, like their killing of someone is not contingent on the government killing someone or not. A gut Hexad would be like, boundary was crossed, this was mine, you're dead.
Yeah.
While like nine is going, well, they did it, so why can't I do it? Because
Yeah.
that like nine attachment of receiving the boundary and then going, okay, I guess I can play into it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like he is like also like kind of disassociating from his direct responsibility here. He's
Right.
keeps putting it back on that like external like locus of control, like I'm just a product of what the government was doing. I had to act. And like as a triple attachment type, you can just kind of see how much he's struggling to kind of like come out of the haze, especially with that like really strong nine fix, because he did something really extreme. Um,
Exactly.
he did something really extreme, but he's playing it down like he might have like kicked someone in the shin, like a like a
Or
federal
like
in the shin.
or like just poured someone's coffee on accident, even though it wasn't on accident. Well, he's like, yeah, and I think that also like speaks to the positivity from nine,
Yeah.
in that like it doesn't, because I think I've also noticed this pattern in general with like nine and nine fixers when it comes to their positivity in general. It's not necessarily that it's like optimistic, even though for some people it is if they have like more than one positive fix. It just like neutralizes it
Hmm.
just enough to where like sure it's bad, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
instead of it sounding like I just killed a million families, I really just forgot to say excuse me at the coffee shop.
Yeah, there's tons and tons of downplaying, which is, I mean, the degree that he's doing is it's pretty shocking, but
Right.
yeah.
Come back, Timothy McVeigh tells us why he doesn't think he got a fair trial. We'll hear from the jurors who convicted him and sentenced him to death. McVeigh also talks about his life on death row and his remarkable jailhouse conversations with another notorious criminal, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. Set for his execution. The judge's decision will hinge on whether or not the jury that convicted McVeigh of killing 168 people in the Oklahoma City bombing was biased against him even before the start of his trial. McVeigh believes these images of him, taken 2 days after his arrest in 1995 in leg irons and handcuffs surrounded by federal agents and broadcast repeatedly around the country, tainted the perceptions of the jurors at his trial. And that is a primary basis for his appeal. When I was marched out of the Perry County Courthouse in the orange jumpsuit, that was the beginning of a propaganda campaign. There would not be any denying that they do engage in propaganda campaigns to demonize defendants. So you think when you were marched out that was intentional to demonize you? I believe it was. And as, let's say, as a layman sitting back watching TV, you see a defendant in an orange jumpsuit and you think, well, that's the person they've caught. That person must be guilty. It's just, it's natural. Timothy
Yeah,
McVeigh's trial was held in
I think this might be like a point to like the sixth line to three, where it has that moment where it dips into like check around the general consensus, but it's not necessarily doing the image correction. It's just saying this is what they're seeing, so this is the narrative
Mm.
that's being pushed out, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Instead of that three, kind of like either they see this and then they go, "Oh, I have to readjust or take on the narrative."
Hmm.
This is like full blown. No, this is wrong because you can't put me in an orange jumpsuit because then they'll think I'm actually guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was seeing more of that like triple attachment from an unhealthy guy. Like obviously not all Bermudas
Right,
are like this, but the external locus of control, it's not the fact that he killed a bunch of people, it's the way that they're portraying him. That's the problem.
right, exactly.
Denver, moved from Oklahoma City because a judge ruled that McVeigh had been demonized there. We spoke with 7 of the 12 jurors who convicted McVeigh. Just a few days after the bombing, Timothy McVeigh is arrested. And there's that picture of him in the orange jumpsuit. Just by a show of hands, how many of you remember seeing that picture? 6 of the 7 jurors told us they did see the picture of McVeigh in the orange jumpsuit. Do you recall what you thought at the time?
I'm sorry, but don't all the jurors kind of look like extras from like a low budget, schlocky 1990s Stephen King movie?
I agree. They look like they were paid to be there.
Yeah.
And you can tell it even you can tell they're paid to be there because they don't even look like they genuinely want the guy. They're just like, I'll say yes. Just get me out of here. I want to go
Yeah.
home.
I'm like, where did they find these people? They must have been like looking for people who are hidden under a rock who wouldn't be like biased, but like these people all look like complete weirdos.
Much love to those people if they're still alive.
Seeing it and
Yeah, we're very sorry.
Memories of anything about Tim McVeigh was that picture.
Juror Diane Fairclough told us when she saw that picture of McVeigh, she felt the Oklahoma City bomber was no longer.
I think she's a robot, Micaiah.
I'm confident.
Could make the hair on the back of her neck.
Oh, oh gosh, the sound quality is really bad here. Yeah, like where did they find these people? I don't know.
I think they just like drew the. I think they just have like people stand at like corners in like streets or something, and then just go like kidnap them off the street and just go, "Hey, you're now part of the jury."
Yeah, I think they found Salem, Maine, or Salem's Lot, or whatever it was, and that's where they found these people.
What is this hairstyle on this guy?
I don't
Much love to
know.
him, but
Yeah, yeah.
Someone said, "Hey, wait a minute, I saw him here, there, or wherever," and it never happened. I didn't see anybody that came into that room on day one, their mind made up.
I believe that they came in with preconceived notions and that in the back of their minds, uh, well, their minds were made up.
I mean, you realize that most people in this country think you're responsible for the bombing, correct?
Correct.
Right. So if your perception is that you didn't get a fair trial, they're saying, so what?
It's because I believe in the principle of the matter. There is a presumption of innocence followed by an open and honest jury that's fair and impartial.
So you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Your concern is not guilt or innocence, but the right to a fair trial.
It's the integrity of the process.
Timothy McVeigh's trial included hours of wrenching testimony from victims describing the carnage after the explosion. Through it all, McVeigh sat impassively. How does he explain that?
I was raised in an environment where men don't cry. You hold it back. Obviously, there's a different cultural phenomenon in America now with President Clinton and his whole Tear Act all the time. But for me, through coming into adulthood,
So I think there's like a little bit of that forewing on his three fixed disgust with like Bill Clinton
right,
being like overtly emotional on camera. He's like, I'm a man,
yeah,
I don't cry.
or like that anti-grieving too of like the warmth. He's like, I don't cry. We aren't supposed to do that. And then on top of that, like the cultural difference and cultural coldness of like, I don't cry, and that room for distancing
Mm-hmm.
from like the emotional space that created. Because like whether you grew, because like I think just logically, whether you grew up in a environment where you weren't necessarily allowed to cry, most people would probably allow you to be a little emotionally wet and weep if someone like died in your
Yeah.
family,
Mm-hmm.
because that would at least be like the appropriate response. Well, he's like, I think they're being overly emotional and impartial. I mean, being partial because I killed their kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Sure.
dude, you killed, that's like the normal human response.
Yeah, and I think it could speak to the like just the walled off with SP, like a SP dominance,
Right.
and the coldness of three, like, and then the distancing of nine, and then the six, like he's gonna believe in his mission till the end. Um, but I actually have just one more quote from him to share. I don't know
Active.
if anyone's doubting that he's a six, but he said, a man with nothing left to lose is a very dangerous man, and his energy, anger can be focused toward a common righteous goal. So again, he viewed himself as like a soldier for righteousness. And also, I
Right.
think it speaks to like you're not getting a lot of reactivity because he's really muted because of nine and probably three. But
Hmm.
there's a lot of anger and reactivity. Like you have to have reactivity to go and blow up a building.
Right. And like, I don't know how to like link this typologically, but there is like a six. The thing with sixes and favoring being terrifying to some extent, and I think it gets more amplified with like 8 and 1. But in general, that's also something you see in general with like 6, and also sometimes 3 and 4 in the heart space. But yeah, I think that last note really like solidifies this and like self-pres.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
It's one of the things that a guy learns is how to hold back tears and not let it be shown.
In 1997, Timothy McVeigh was sentenced to death. He now lives on death row at a federal prison in Indiana, where he spends nearly all of his time, 23 hours a day, in a jail cell, with virtually no contact with other inmates. Until last summer, he was incarcerated at this penitentiary in Colorado. And one of his neighbors on the cell block was another notorious criminal, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Did you ever talk to Kaczynski?
I did.
Do you think that you and he share similar concerns about how the government operates these days?
We have somewhat different views, but there is some common ground there. I found that in a way that I didn't realize that we were much alike in that all we ever wanted or all we wanted out of life was the freedom to live our own lives, uh, however we chose to. And he expressed that one day, and it hit me that, well, this labeling, he's far left, I'm far right. That's all nothing to do. There's a lot more commonality there. You both think you had lost the freedom to live your life the way you wanted to, and you think that the government took those freedoms from you. From my perspective, I believe that it's a problem with government. From Ted's perspective, he believes it's a problem with technology. Let me ask you your opinion.
So, I mean, that's true. Like, Kaczynski's whole thing was like pushing back against the consequences of the Industrial Revolution and what he believed
Right.
was going to lead to like the downfall of mankind. And that's kind of like, I guess you could make a point for like Five Wing Six, like there it's almost like it's not attachment, right? It's not
Right.
like with McVeigh here, he has an enemy that's very tangible. It's the US government. With
Right.
Kaczynski, it was more like theoretical. Like I'm thinking ahead, I'm looking at trends, and I know where this is going. So it was very like he was more of like orchestrative or attempting to be in kind of that like SOSP way.
Yeah. Or I'll have to look into Kaczynski a little more because I think that would make sense for 5. I
Hmm.
can see the art.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is like, so like Kaczynski, I don't think he ever expressed regret about what he did. Everything was very purposeful. But later on, I know that McVeigh had expressed sentiments that if he could go back and redo it, he would target specific like agents from the FBI, like the sharpshooter that killed that woman with her child at Ruby Ridge. So he had like some of that sixth doubt about what he was doing, where I didn't
Right.
get that at all from Kaczynski.
Yeah. Okay.
Snapshot opinion of some of the institutions in this country and some officials in this country. ATF, for example, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau. Should not have law enforcement jurisdiction. Should be taxation agency. The IRS? I believe they're an out of control agency. FBI? Should be reined in. What do you think of the Attorney General, Jan Marino? They say if you don't have anything good to say about somebody, don't say it. So we'll go on to the next person. President Clinton. I don't hold him in high regard. Timothy McVeigh says he has little faith that the judicial system will grant him.
And like even his criticisms there of these people that he probably would have wanted to like take out via sniper rifle if he could. It's so like softened by,
Hmm.
like 6'9", triple attachment.
Right.
Like I don't really
Like
have anything good to say.
like he's trying to give some location, but it's not hard enough to where you've taken seriously on it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's like it's almost surprising to see how he presented himself versus his actions.
Right. Like they're two different people.
Yeah, like yeah, and he has psychologically distanced himself from this a lot, or at least from the fallout. He's like, well,
Right.
let's downplay the fallout because we need to focus on the real issue, which is like the US government is our enemy type of thing.
Right.
A new trial. The judge is expected to reach a decision on his appeal by the end of the year. If McVeigh loses, he will likely be executed in this room by lethal injection. Are you prepared for death?
I am. Uh, it's, I came to terms with my mortality in the Gulf War. Um, After that, it's not that hard to be, quote, prepared for death.
But there's a little different experience being in a war and having yourself exposed to danger as opposed to being in prison on death row, knowing that at some date down the line, there will be a lethal injection that will take your life.
In truth, from my psychological perspective, it's a little easier being on death row because you know how you're going to die. You can narrow down where you're going to die, and you can pretty much narrow down the time.
I know you have a lot of time to.
And I think you could tie that to Six Head too. Like, actually, it's comforting that I don't have to have this fear of the unknown. I know exactly when I'm going to die. This isn't like
Right.
a chaotic battle scene where death could come at any moment. So I'm actually okay with this.
Exactly.
Sit here and think.
Yes.
If you had your life to live over, is there anything you do differently?
I've thought about that quite a few times, and I think anybody in life says, I wish I could have gone back and done this differently.
Anybody. It says like
Anyone could have done it.
6'9" deflection. Like, I'm just a normal guy. Everybody has some second, like, doubts and stuff.
Right.
Done that differently. There are moments, but no one that stands out.
Okay. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Um, yeah, I think this was like a great illustration of like six Bermuda with like self-social up front and seeing that like 6.5 dedication to a cause and dedication to an ideology to where it's so extreme and so crazy that it like ends in like the death of like 168 people.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there is no like clear ownership of it in contrast to something that you'd probably see from other people who kill people. And yeah, I think that like really is a great exemplar of like your average Bermuda serial killer. And hopefully we'll get to look at some more.
Your average Bermuda serial killer. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we can call it Timothy McVeigh, the Unabomber, Six Wing Five, Nine Wing One, Three Wing Four, SpSo. Are we good on that?
Yep, I think that is like perfect for us.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching and come back again soon. Bye.